Good evening, welcome to the January 21st Clifton Park Town Board meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Teresa, if you call the roll.
Councilman Taylor? Here. Councilwoman Standard? Here. Councilman Romano?
Here.
Councilwoman Wallowitz? Here. Supervisor Barrett?
Here. Entertain a motion to approve Town Board meeting minutes of the 6th of January as well as the reorganizational meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Ms. Wallowitz. Discussion?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes. Communications and announcements. Any takers this evening? Okay, seeing none. We do have exciting Winterfest activities coming up in February, so stay tuned. Not all of the details are set yet, and the reason for that is some of the activities are snow dependent. So we got a little bit this weekend. They're saying we might get a little more this coming weekend, but we're still a few weeks out, so who knows? So some of those activities are dependent on the weather, and if we have snow. If we do have snow, obviously we have a few more activities to offer. So we'll watch the weather, but you can also find information on cliftonpark.org for that day's events, as well as any other activities that are coming up. Everybody will soon receive their spring and summer recreational booklet. We have many programs and activities for people of all ages. As the town has increased the number of programs and activities over the years, it's also increased job opportunities for people in Clifton Park as well. So we'll be continuing to hire for the spring and summer and fall programs as we get further into the year. We're going to be joined shortly by Senator Jim Tedisco, who will be here to talk about a piece of legislation that he has introduced that I think is very important to the town of Clifton Park, as well as every community across New York State. So we will be joined by the senators soon. At this time, and I want to be mindful of his time. So why don't we do this? If you could begin to read the resolutions, and then when he gets here, we'll go back to the first one because I'd like to have him speak on that. Yes, please. Yeah.
A resolution supporting legislation to protect first responders from unintended consequences of the New York State bail reform and criminal discovery changes, and in support of amendments to the radical changes to the state's criminal procedure statutes. Whereas the state of New York enacted widespread changes to the state's criminal justice system and measures inserted into the fiscal year 2020 budget bill, which eliminates a judge's discretion to set bail in a wide variety of cases, including those involving dangerous crimes, and the imposition of stringent discovery mandates for police and prosecutors. And whereas under these bail reform measures, the crimes for which judges can no longer set bail include those that result in the injury and property loss of innocent people, as well as those involving making a terroristic threat, promoting child pornography, and endangering the welfare of a vulnerable elderly person, releasing those accused of such crimes back into the midst of the crime victims and their families. And whereas the discovery mandates imposed by the state of New York requires that police and prosecutors turn over voluminous trial-related material to defense attorneys within 15 days of arraignment, creating a paperwork mandate which cannot be met in all cases, which will inevitably result in the inability to prosecute cases against dangerous criminal defendants in some cases, and whereas These sweeping changes were enacted without public hearings, without consultation among law enforcement or the judiciary, and without warning to crime victims, advocates, communities, or any other stakeholders in the criminal justice system. And whereas among the unintended consequences of these sweeping changes is a risk that home address information for firefighters, EMS workers, and other first responders will be disclosed to criminal defendants in cases where they became witnesses as a result of first responder duties. And whereas Senator James Tedisco has introduced legislation contained in Senate Bill 7280 to require that the home addresses of first responder witnesses need not to be disclosed to criminal defense attorneys absent a court order in cases where personnel become involved as witnesses in the criminal justice process by virtue of their first responder duties and activities. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board supports Senator Tedisco's bill to protect firefighters, first responders, and EMS workers from the home address discovery in criminal cases and urges passage of S 7280, and be it further resolved the town board supports the amendment of the New York State's bill and discovery reforms through a legislative process which includes public hearings and consultations with law enforcement and judiciary so that a fair set of reform measures can be enacted for the benefit of crime victims, law enforcement, and public safety. A resolution hiring Wild Goose Chase N.E. New Lebanon, New York to rid the Clifton Knolls ponds of Canadian geese, whereas the Canadian geese continue to be a problem in the Clifton Knolls ponds, and whereas the town board as commissioners of both the Clifton Knolls Mill Creek Park districts have received a request from the Building and Grounds Department to authorize the hiring of Wild Goose Chase N.E. to chase the geese away before they lay their eggs, and whereas the company utilizes border collies to herd and deter the birds until they leave, and whereas the town has been pleased with the services and commitment of Wild Goose Chase N.E. and their results in keeping the areas clear of Canadian geese, now therefore be it resolved that the town board acting as commissioners of the Building Park District hereby authorizes the hiring of Wild Goose Chase N.E. New Lebanon, New York to reduce the Canadian geese from Clifton Road to Clifton Pond at $65 per visit, and total cost not to exceed $7,000 for the fees to be paid from Clifton Road Mill Creek Park District. A resolution hiring seasonal laborers for the Barney Road Golf Course for the 2020 season, whereas the town board wishes to hire seasonal laborers for the season at the Barney Road Golf Course, whereas Daniel Clemens, supervisor of buildings and grounds, has recommended that Christopher Daniels, 2C Cinnamon Drive, Boston Lake, and Richard Stern Jr., 14 Cloverleaf Drive, Boston Lake, be hired as laborers for the golf course. And now therefore be it resolved that authorization is hereby given to retain Christopher Daniels at $13 an hour, and Richard Stern, $14.50 an hour as laborers for the Barney Road Golf Course effective February 1st, 2020 through the remainder of the 2020 season. A resolution authorizing the hiring of a laborer for the Buildings and Grounds Department, whereas an opening exists for a laborer in the Buildings and Grounds Department due to the retirement of Thomas Nadler, and whereas Daniel Clemens, Buildings and Grounds Supervisor, has recommended that Jacob Michael Palmetier, 768 Arnold Street, Ballston Spa, is qualified and should be hired to fill the full-time position. Now therefore be it resolved that authorization is hereby given to hire Jacob Michael Palmetier as a laborer for Buildings and Grounds at grade 3, step 1, $18.87 an hour, effective immediately, with an estimated amount to the end of the year of $37,589. A resolution authorizing the purchase of replacement parts for golf course lawn mowing equipment, whereas Daniel Clemens, supervisor of buildings and grounds, requests authorization to purchase replacement blade cutting units for town-owned mowing equipment, and whereas Grassland Equipment and Irrigation Corporation, Choice Schenectady Road, Lakeland, New York, as an authorized Toro dealer, has the replacement parts per the attached quote at a cost not to exceed $7,605.53 for purchase under New York State contract number PC 68896, and whereas Mr. Clemens has also recommended the equipment be purchased from Grassland Equipment and Irrigation pursuant to the New York State contract identified above. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor of buildings and grounds to purchase the lawn mowing equipment from Grassland Equipment and Irrigation Corporation in a total amount not to exceed $7,605.53. A A resolution accepting the bid for town building cleanings and maintenance of the buildings and to authorize the town to enter into an agreement with WJS Ultimate Cleaning and Floors for said services, whereas bids for the cleaning contract for the town hall and other town-owned facilities were solicited and opened on December 27, 2019, and whereas WJS Ultimate Cleaning and Floors LLC, 323 Linden Street, Schenectady, New York, submitted the low bid in an amount not to exceed $55,252.13 for cleanings per the attached bid documents, whereas Daniel Clemens, Buildings and Grounds Supervisor, recommends that WJS Ultimate Cleaning and Floors be hired as cleaners for town-owned buildings. Now therefore be it resolved that WJS Ultimate Cleaning and Floors is awarded the bid to provide janitorial services for town-owned buildings per the attached breakdown by building in a total amount not to exceed $55,252.13 for cleanings beginning February 1st, 2020 until January 31st, 2021, to be paid from town buildings cleaning. Resolved that the supervisor is authorized to sign the attached contract for cleaning services for the town-owned facilities as listed, and be it further resolved that the contract may be extended upon mutual consent of the parties involved. A resolution awarding a contract for landscape work for the Stony Creek 2 Park District, whereas quotes were received by the town board as commissioners of the Stony Creek 2 Park District for seasonal landscape work as per the attached quote, including the Park Lane Estates entrances and meetings, and whereas the lowest conforming quote for the landscaping services was submitted by GPM 2 Progress Drive, number 4398, Clifton Park. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board, as commissioners of the Stony Creek 2 Park District, hereby awards a contract to GPM for landscape services in the Stony Creek 2 Park District at a cost not to exceed $15,750 for the 2020 seasons, to be charged to the Stony Creek 2 Park District maintenance. A resolution authorizing the purchase of a 7-ton equipment trailer for the Department of Buildings and Grounds, whereas Daniel Clemens, Supervisor of Buildings and Grounds, requested authorization to purchase a replacement equipment trailer for one that the town has owned since 1985, and whereas Versatile Trailer, Saratoga Road, Dansport, New York, provided the lowest responsive quote for the replacement trailer per the attached quote at a cost not to exceed $5,116, and whereas Daniel Clemens has recommended the equipment be purchased from Versatile Trailer, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor of Buildings and Grounds to purchase the 7-ton equipment trailer from Versatile Trailer, Saratoga Road, Dansport, New York, in an amount not to exceed $5,116. Resolution authorizing the purchase of a dump trailer for the Department of Buildings and Grounds, whereas Daniel Clemens, Supervisor of Buildings and Grounds, requested authorization to purchase a dump trailer, and whereas Outdoor Motorsports and Trailer Sales, 3953 State Route Highway 30, Amsterdam, New York, provided the lowest responsive quote for the replacement trailer per the attached quote at a total cost not to exceed $8,299, and whereas Daniel Clemens has recommended the equipment be purchased from Outdoor Motorsports and Trailer Sales, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor of Buildings and Grounds to purchase a 14K big text scissor lift dump trailer with roll tard from Outdoor Motorsports and Trailer Sales at Amsterdam, New York, in an amount not to exceed $8,299. A resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with Northeast Organic Farming Association of Connecticut for a 30-hour NOFA accreditation course in organic land care, whereas the town has accepted an award for a 2019-2020 community grant from the New York State Pollution Prevention Institution in the amount of $14,978 to provide professional education and training services for chemical and pollution-free lawn care strategies. And whereas the town board and Green Committee has selected CTNOFA to present a 30-hour accreditation course as part of its Healthy Lands, Healthy Landscapes program initiative with funding from the grant. And whereas the town board wishes to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Northeast Organic Farming Association of Connecticut for the development and presentation of an educational training course for landscape workers, companies, managers, and staff to implement grant program objectives. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to sign the attached memorandum of understanding with CTNOFA for the development and delivery of a 30-hour NOFA accreditation course in organic land care at a cost not to exceed $14,578 to be paid from Green Committee other contractual. A resolution authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance 100% of the federal aid and state Marchicelli program aid eligible costs of the transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore. Whereas a project for the Silvery Road and Traffic Signal Improvement Project, Conflict Park, Saratoga County, PIN 1757.84, the project is eligible for funding under Title 23 U.S. Code as amended. It calls for the apportionment of the cost of such program to be borne at the ratio of 80% federal funds and 20% non-federal funds. And whereas the town board of Clifton Park desires to advance the project by making a commitment of 100% of the non-federal share of the cost of design and ROW acquisition and incidentals and construction CI. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board duly conveys hereby that the town board hereby approves the above subject project, and it is hereby further resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the payment in the first instance 100% of the federal and non-federal share of the cost of work for the project or portions thereof, and it is further resolved that the sum of $253,829 is hereby appropriated and made available to cover the cost of participation in the above phase of the project, and it's further resolved that in the event the full federal and non-federal share of the cost of the project exceeds the amount appropriated above, the town board of the town of Clifton Park shall convene as soon as possible to appropriate said excess amount immediately upon the notification of the New York State Department of Transportation thereof, and it is further resolved that the supervisor be and is hereby authorized to execute all necessary agreements, certifications, or reimbursement requests for federal aid and or Marchicelli program aid on behalf of the town of Clifton Park with the New York State Department of Transportation in connection with the advancement or approval of the project and providing for the administration of the project and the municipality's first instance funding of project costs and permanent funding of the local share of federal aid and state aid eligible project costs and all project costs within the appropriations therefore that are not so eligible. And it is further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be filed with the New York State Commissioner of Transportation by attaching it to any necessary agreement in connection with the project. And it is further resolved this resolution shall take effect immediately. A resolution authorizing personnel from the building department to attend the annual conferences necessary to complete New York State requirements for town code enforcement officers in 2020, whereas conferences are designed to give their members the needed hours to complete the New York State 24 hours requirement for in-service education for all code enforcement officers per year in order to maintain their certification. And whereas the procurement policy 10 provides that all requests to attend classes, seminars, or professional conferences involving overnight stays must be approved by the town board. And whereas the conferences listed on Schedule A provide the classes for the acquisition of needed credits by building department officials involved overnight stays, and whereas attendance at these seminars will provide a benefit to the residents of the town and is necessary to maintain building officials' credentials, and whereas the town board wishes that the building officials attend these conferences, now therefore be it resolved that the building department is authorized to send staff to conferences as noted on Schedule A at a total cost not to exceed $4,940 budgeted from building department training and conferences.
All right, thank you, Teresa. If you could go back and read the heading on the first resolution, please.
Resolution number 12 of 2020, a resolution supporting legislation to protect first responders from unintended consequences of New York State bail reform and criminal discovery changes, and in support of amendments to the radical changes to the state's criminal procedure statutes.
Very good, thank you. Well, I'll move that we approve the resolution with a second by the board. Yeah, Teresa?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Stander?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowit?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, and this resolution supports changes to the bail reform laws that were implemented January 1st. I use the word reform very loosely, but that's what they called it, bail reform. It's also, the resolution is also intended to support Senator Jim Tedisco's legislation The title of that legislation is the Emergency First Responders Privacy and Protection Act, S. 7280. So to speak about the legislation is the man himself, Mr. Tedisco. How are you, Senator?
Doing okay.
All right, if you could come up, we're honored to have you, sir.
Happy to be here.
And if you could tell us about this legislation and the reasoning behind it and how it could have a negative effect on our first responders.
Let me, first of all, thank you, Supervisor, and your council members here, not only for the aspect of the wonderful quality of life you provide for Clifton Park, but understanding that nothing about that quality of life matters if you can't keep your constituents safe. And the most telling part about that is the fact that not too long ago, about a week or so ago, the governor came out with an 80-minute speech, as you remember, called the State of the State. And for the last 7, 8, 9 months, the one issue that we've been talking about in terms of our constituents not being safe, being less safe, was the criminal, what I have to call injustice reform, the criminal bail elimination proposal and the discovery proposal. And spent 80 minutes talking about a whole variety of things. Nothing of what he said mattered because he didn't mention once about how he was going to adjust what he calls a program in progress now. This is a governor who talked about this proposal like it was the best thing since sliced bread with his colleagues about 9 or 10 months ago. And I hate to have to say this, but all of myself and my GOP members voted against this proposal. It was placed in the budget. No Assembly Republican, no Senate Republican voted for it, because I think we had the common sense to understand that when you take discretion away from judges, you know, there are 3 parts of our representative democracy: the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary. Judiciary has always had discretion to have the opportunity to look holistically at the accused before them and understand that perhaps this individual is a danger to him or herself or to others in the community, and provide what's called cash bail for retention purposes. And I'll give you a classic example, but we've had one example after another example after another example, exactly what we said was going to happen with the so-called criminal justice reform is happening. You can look at the clips, because we get the clips as elected officials every day. This is not only happening here in the capital region. This is happening across the state of New York. And you're looking at elected law enforcement officials, you're looking at district attorneys, you're looking at prosecutors, you're looking at the judiciary. Hagan, a Republican; Soros, a Democratic DA; Apple, a Democratic sheriff; Zerlo, a Republican sheriff, and it goes across the board. It is not a political issue, and it is so clearly endangering the welfare of our constituents across the state. And right now they are dug in, but they are backpedaling now. You might say they've learned from Michael Jackson how to do the moonwalk, and they do it very well. And they're suggesting, well, maybe we need some tweaks. I know you might have seen Assemblywoman Fahey come out with 3 areas she needs tweaks. But it needs tweaks in all the areas. I have 3 bills pending, actually. I had a moratorium where we would do exactly what they should have done. Have 10 hearings across 10 regions of the state, bring in all the stakeholders, including the ones which may have been most important. The advocates for the victims and victims in their family, like the Stewarts. Because we have an occasion, and I have to tell you, the Stewarts are interacting with the families right now, where recently you may have seen, DWI individual, very high, intoxicated, no cash bail was released. About a week later, he killed a beautiful individual in his vehicle, destroyed his life. They've been in contact with each other to want to see if they can get together and maybe have a press conference with myself and others from the Senate and the Assembly out there to say, please, take a look at this and see what's happening in our community. One of the clearest illustrations is what happened yesterday in Rensselaer County. Are you aware that an individual in a domestic violence case, I guess he was choking his wife, was arrested? No longer in a domestic violence situation is there a cooling off point. And that is the worst thing you can happen, do to someone when they're as angry as they can be. They've perpetrated violence against their girlfriend or their wife or someone they're living with, and you release them. Well, the judge had to release him the other day. You know what he did. He even had an ankle bracelet on, I believe. Went directly back to his wife, and they had to rearrest him again. And we're thankful that she wasn't violated again, or she didn't lose her life. It makes absolutely no sense with the evidence we've seen over the last 16 or 17 or 18 days. It is happening consistently. Now that's the cash bail situation, where complete discretion is taken away from the judges, and over 400 crimes. You're talking about manslaughter. You're talking about having a gun illegally on the grounds of a school. You're talking about domestic violence. You're talking about harming companion pets. You know, we passed Buster Law, and the purpose of that is, it's up on an A level in terms of the FBI, because they use threatening to harm animals in domestic violence cases. And usually you can use cash bail when they try to do it. I'm going to hurt your dog. I'm going to hurt your cat. You better listen to what I said. There'll be violence against you. That no longer exists either. They're walking now. So there are so many serious crimes. Now, we're not talking about someone who walks into a store and steals a pack of gum, shoplifting, or trespassing, or something like that. We believe, most of us, in criminal justice reform for low-level, minor crimes. But if you steal a pack of gum or a pair of sneakers, and you stab somebody in the chest while you're doing it, or punch him in the face, or you're walking and trespassing on somebody's property, and you do the same thing, we shouldn't arrest you and have cash bail because of that minor crime. It's the serious violent crimes which are taking place, and burglary, and robbery, and banks, robbing banks. There was an individual who did it 5 times, robbed a bank. I don't know if you saw this one in City. They let him go the 6th time. He walked out of the bank, and the media walked up to him and said, "Sir, why did you?" He said, "I can't believe they let me go again." Even he couldn't believe, after 6 bank robberies, that they let him go. Nobody can virtually defend what is happening now. And really what I say to individuals who say, well, somebody has more money than somebody else. You cannot balance the scales of justice on the backs of innocent, honest, law-abiding citizens and their families. You cannot discriminate against innocent people to move discrimination from other people. Because you know what? Criminal justice can never be exactly perfect, because at some point when you try to make it perfect, what's happening now, the only way to call this is a purge. If you've ever seen that movie, The Purge, and one day law enforcement turns its back and it allows everybody to go out there and just murder, harm, rape, violate. This is another 350 days of this purge that is going to take place. And law enforcement doesn't want to see this happening. Our judiciary doesn't want to see this happening. And certainly the people who have families and loved ones don't want to see this happening. And there's a part of this whole thing which has been set aside and really not been looked at fully as this one, this outrage with the cash bail. And that's discovery. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about, because when we don't keep safe those people who keep us safe, law enforcement and our first responders, then we're not keeping ourselves safe. I must have been at, over these first days of the new year, I'd say 11 installations for our firefighters and our first responders. And in most of them, I'm bringing this information which I gave to you, which you qualified as the Emergency First Responder Privacy and Protection Act, S7280. And I want to let you know that Assemblyman Dan Steck and Assemblywoman Mary Beth Walsh and several other sponsors in the Assembly are sponsoring this. I have several sponsors in the Senate right now. And to tell you the truth, all my Democratic colleagues who actually own this, okay, are coming out with a whole bunch of bills now to say, oh, geez, we got to tweak this, we've got to change some of these things. Well, why didn't they read the bill to begin with? Maybe they didn't read the bill because it was in the wrong place. It was in the budget of New York State. And you can see time after time after time now, this governor is placing in the budget things that should be debated by another branch of government, the legislature, and negotiated with the legislature. Not two men and a woman, three persons in a room now. It's not three men in a room now, but we know the way the budget process works. This was not debated on the floor. There were no hearings across the state. I actually have a bill to allow a compromise on discretion for judges, and I actually have a majority member, Angelo Santa Barbara, in the Assembly who is carrying the bill, a majority member. So this crosses party lines. But in the discovery area, which I want to talk about now, which relates to the resolution you passed, because it is extremely important when I talk about protecting those people who protect us. In this bill, if you read the bill, it gets to a point with those individuals who in 15 days, and the district attorneys are wild about this, because to put a case for a district attorney and a prosecutor in 15 days with the complex evidence is almost impossible to begin with. If you know anything about DNA evidence, it doesn't take a day, 2 days, it doesn't take a week. Sometimes it takes months, and there are a whole bunch of cases where DNA is involved. If I'm a smart defense lawyer, in 15 days, when it says you've got to get all the evidence, you've got to get the DNA, and this is what relates to the resolution you passed today in the bill I'm trying to pass to protect our first responders. It says you've got to give the names and the address to the defense attorney and the accused predators. And I have to tell you, many of those predators are gang members. These are individuals who are maybe not gang members, maybe MS-13 gang members, but are people who have committed violent crimes. They're up for murder. Well, these MS-13 gangs are up for murder. They've killed people. They don't threaten witnesses anymore. They just kill them. Because it doesn't matter how many more people they kill. They're 25 years to life. There's no death penalty in New York State. And matter of factly, they're trying to eliminate life imprisonment. I don't know if you saw that. They want to make sure when you're 55 years of age. And let me say this about being 55 years of age and saying it's time for you to be out on parole. I think Dunkin' Donuts should give you a discount on coffee, but I don't think they should let you out of prison if you're a serial murderer, or give you voting rights if a jury has said you deserve to never come back into society. I mean, giving persons parole who a jury says you've done things so bad you should never be in society, but now I want you to be paroled, or I want you to get voting rights to pick the local, state, and federal elected officials who are going to make the laws to protect me and keep me safe in my community. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But those are laws pending also. But in terms of this particular law, in the bill, it did exempt law enforcement officials, and rightfully so. We don't want the MS-13 gangs or individuals who are up for serious crimes or their friends, and some of these people can do it from prison. They're running situations illegally from inside prison, paying people off to go and harm individuals who got them there, who are witnesses for future. In this case, law enforcement officials would be exempt from the 15 days. Maybe towards the end, they would make some statements they would maybe not have to give. You saw this in the Annexian court case that was recently. Many of the individuals who testified did not have to give their names or their address. Under this bill, that would be destroyed now. And first responders are not in the bill to be protected and have their privacy protected. Now, why is that important? Because firefighters, because EMS personnel, because EMTs who are part of that, paramedics, are many times the first one on a scene with a crime that's committed related to an emergency. And all crimes are basically related to an emergency. When that DWI took place, and Christopher Stewart and Deanne Rivers were virtually murdered, and several of their friends were seriously injured. If this bill was in place, the perpetrator might have been home before the family even knew that those individuals were destroyed in that accident. There would have been no cash bail. Under this law, people who destroy people's lives like they did get to walk and would have to come back on their own recognizance. Now, what this particular bill says, that as a first responder, when you go to a shooting, let's say, or a burglary, or a murder in a house where somebody starts a fire so they can hide the evidence, or a DWI, and they're on the scene, they're there not to arrest people, they're there to save their lives. But under this bill, their names, their addresses, where not only they live, but where their families live, their sons, their daughters, their wives, sometimes others live, that information is going to have to be given to the defense in 15 days, and the perpetrators. Now, I don't know how many first responders are in this room, but as I go to these installation dinners, I talk to them about recruitment. And then they say, Senator, we sign up for this as volunteers. You know, this is also for private, too, because they're putting their line on also. But we don't sign up for our families to have their lives put in danger. If they want to give my name, maybe in the fire station, but even if you give the name in the fire station, they're going to be able to track down your family. But they're willing to volunteer with heroism to go in a burning building, to help a victim that's been in a shooting, or a victim of a DWI. But they don't want their family members, and they don't want themselves to be known about this, to have retribution potentially, or to be threatened by these individuals. In the fact of the matter, it's happened before because they've been able to get these names. In many instances before, the judges have been able to not allow these names. And I want to make you a point that there is another bill we're having for citizens who are not related to law enforcement, who are not first responders, who can petition the court to say, I believe because this is a dangerous perpetrator, they don't want their names. Because I don't think any citizen should have their names and their address released if these individuals could be a danger in terms of retribution. So it's a case of not only keeping them safe and letting them do their job, but it's also a case of keeping their families safe and being able to do recruitment. Because right now they're saying to me, I don't know how we're going to recruit. We have a hard time recruiting right now. If they know their privacy issues are going to be released, my address, where I live, where my family lives, they're finding out where my kids go to school. I think it was a mistake. I think the whole thing was a mistake, but I have to do the best I can to mitigate some of these mistakes. So that's why I have a series of bills. We'd like to repeal it and start all over again. That bill I talked to you about giving discretion with a majority member in the Assembly, relates to 3 areas because I think it makes so much common sense. Even the progressives themselves would say, well, maybe here's something we can agree upon. There's 3 things which we say, with common sense, you should have cash bail and an opportunity for a judge who thinks this person may be a danger to themselves and others. The first one is if they've had violent arrests and convictions in the past. Okay? If somebody was convicted of murder and got 24 years in jail, was released and 3 years later, started out as a young person, raped somebody, got another 10 years, got loose, and in his state, burglarized, forget about that murder and that rape. That burglar allows that person to walk now in New York State. I think a judge should be able to look at the violent situations in the past and say, wait a second, you burglarized. Now, because nobody walked in and found that individual, maybe he didn't hit him in the head with a lamp or shoot him or stab him. He only had a burglar. If he hit him in the head with a lamp or stabbed him, yes, he'd be in jail right now. But sometimes they get away with that, but they're caught. In that case, I think we should give discretion in a common sense way to the judge. The second one is we give them one bite at the apple on all these 400 bills to let them walk on their own recognizance. Ask Sheriff Zerlo what's going to happen there. He says he's going to be chasing twice as many people who don't show up for their court date. Now think about this. When Sheriff Zerlo is chasing all those people who haven't shown up for their court date, with the assets he's had, who's chasing after the people who are committing the crimes right now? So we're not catching the people who are committing the new crimes, and we've got people who are running because if they get caught, we've seen what happened to the bank robber, they keep getting released, okay? So at least on the second time, you've released them once. If they don't show up, I think they should have at least cash bail opportunity, the ability to retain. And the third thing, which I think makes eminent common sense, you've committed a crime. In a normal sense, the judge would have the opportunity to say, I think you're a danger for such and such reason. Now he doesn't, so he releases them. If the individual creates another crime before they go before the justice system for the first crime, Shouldn't the judge have the opportunity to provide cash bail and say, I'm going to retain you and you're going to have to pay maybe $50,000 to get out, which may make it a little bit difficult, and you'll have something to lose. Maybe not running is a good thing for you if you do get out. Even in those three areas, they are so dug in right now that all the violence and the tragedy taking place, they want to again do this in the budget process. And my feeling is, you've done a very bad thing behind closed doors. In darkness, democracy dies. And certainly this was in darkness because we didn't have a chance to debate it. Anything that should be done to correct this in any way should be debated on the floor of the Senate and the New York State Assembly, and then bring it to the governor and see if he needs some compromises. But we're a legislative body. It shouldn't be done behind closed doors with a budget. A budget deals with the economy of New York State, not the public safety of our constituents. That public safety should have been debated in the first part on the floor of the Senate and the Assembly, and any change should be debated that way. So I want to thank you for the resolution supporting the fact that we're going to add to this an exemption for our first responders, who are placed in the same dangerous position I think our law enforcement officials are placed in if we give names and addresses in 15 days to some of these perpetrators. And I appreciate very much giving me the opportunity. I know I was a little lengthy on this, but it's a very complex issue in one sense, but in another sense, it's just common sense. And criminal justice reform, we can do it. We can do it for low-level crimes, for minor crimes.
For those low-level crimes, people were getting appearance tickets anyway.
Right.
Before these
Right.
laws were implemented January 1st, correct?
Yeah. And for the other crimes,
So I think some proponents of the changes of the new laws try to give everybody the impression that these very low-level crimes, that somehow these people were put away in jail with no hope of getting out. I mean, that simply wasn't the case prior to January 1st. I mean, they were given appearance tickets for minor crimes.
if you read the crimes, manslaughter, domestic violence, endangering a child, all these things are serious crimes. And yes, there are people who have more money than other people and who are going to be able to provide the funds to get out. But they still have something to lose, don't forget. But here's what we have to understand. You cannot make criminal justice perfect in a financial way in terms of financial means without endangering innocent, honest, law-abiding people and their families. Because, look, I want to send my kid to Harvard. I want to have a mansion. I want to get a Jaguar or a Mercedes. I want to go to Hawaii every weekend. I'm discriminated against, okay? Financial, and I can't hire the best lawyers if I get in trouble. And we're never going to create a system where you can get the best lawyers for everybody. And so there are going to be areas where they're not perfect. But trying to make it perfect and then making it more dangerous for the large majority of individuals is not the correct way to do it. The correct way to do it is find out those lower minor crimes and then holistically let the judges look at those who may be a danger to themselves or others and say, we took an oath of office to protect as many people in the best way as possible. This clearly doesn't do it because we can see what's happening now. I mean, look at the anti-Semitism which took place down in New York City. A woman beat up 3 individuals. She walked, she beat up 2 more individuals. She got arrested again. And the only way they kept her was to say, well, she needs mental health guidance and counseling. I mean, there's got to be a way to do more than just let people walk and say, now that equals everything up. Well, it may equal everything up in terms of finances, but it discriminates against all law-abiding citizens and their families because you're putting more people out into the street that are clearly illustrating they are a danger.
Yeah.
And we told them that. We said that was going to happen.
There's no guessing any longer.
No.
I mean, there's clear examples each and every day, and I don't think the right approach is to completely overhaul the criminal justice system and then place law-abiding people in danger.
Right.
That certainly isn't the correct route to take when trying to right these wrongs that the proponents of this bill are talking about. But you're absolutely correct. You know, there is bipartisan support for changes to these laws, and the bipartisan support is evident throughout New York State. And we need to, and the reason why we have this resolution tonight is, one, to support your bill, because we need to defend our first responders who already have a difficult job as it is, protecting us each and every day. There's many barriers put in their way in doing their job to their fullest capability. They're already overcoming challenges and barriers that have been placed in front. This is just one more unnecessary element that could be detrimental to their being able to do their job.
There's so many ancillary issues that could be corrected that aren't directly related to their argument about finances. And if you really look at it, if you want to solve that problem about equal finances and non-discrimination, say rich people, poor people, minorities, any culture, if the judge says you're a danger to yourself and others, there's no more cash bail. You all stay in jail until your court case comes up, and you expedite the process, which we're trying to do, of your court case. Now that takes away the discrimination of finances, but I don't think they want that, okay? The other side won't accept that. And, okay, if there's a difference in financial discrepancy, index it. If I'm a millionaire, maybe I pay $300,000. If not, I pay $5,000 if I'm on the lower run of this. But to let everybody out just doubles the amount of people, because judges are pretty good at this. That's why we give them discrimination. That's why they kind of take a look at everything holistically and say, you know, maybe not cash bail for this person, but maybe for this person, it's got to be retained. I see the holistic aspect of it. And that's a part of what we're giving them the deliberation to do.
Right. No, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. But
So I truly thank you for this. And
thank you.
there's several other municipalities. Fulton County is looking at this, and I'm hopeful the county will take a look at a resolution like this, because as many locally can weigh in on behalf of their constituents, the more messages we can send out. And maybe we can do this in the right way. It'll never be exactly perfect 100%, because it's impossible to be perfect on every issue as it relates to a lot of these areas.
Oh,
But
sure.
we can make it better, but this really, as I said, discriminates against more innocent, honest, law-abiding citizens. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be here tonight to further explain it and offer ourselves here and any interested parties a better understanding of why the bill was written, why you're supporting it, sponsoring it, and pushing it forward on behalf of all New Yorkers. So thank you very much.
Thank you for asking. I'm going to shoot out.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you got another place to go, so again, we appreciate it. With that, are there any other comments on that resolution? I do want to thank the board for, and I know other board members have been to installation banquets, as I have in recent weeks, and it has been a topic of conversation, right?
I noticed that there, in the presentation, there's a link, probably on the senator's webpage, to be able to get in touch with the governor, the majority leader, and the assembly speaker. So it wouldn't hurt if you want to hear your voice heard, and that's our right. Please get in touch. You can call, email. All right.
Yep. Thank you. Good point. Okay. All right, we'll go to resolution number 2. Teresa.
Resolution number 13 of 2020, a resolution hiring Wild Goose Chase NE New Lebanon, New York to rivet Clifton Knolls Ponds of Canadian geese.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Whalen, second by Mrs. Standart. We've used this group for various properties in town over the years, and they've proven to be successful. Any further discussion? Okay, Teresa?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 14 of 2020, a resolution hiring seasonal laborers for the Barney Road Golf Course for the 2020 season.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Whalen, second by Ms. Wallen. Dan?
Now, these two guys are both returning employees. They both worked there before. Richard will be working 40 hours a week. Chris will be working 24 hours a week. And probably once the weather breaks, we're looking at the beginning of April that we'll be bringing them in. And these guys are experienced and do a nice job for us.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Dan?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 15 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the hiring of a laborer for the Buildings and Grounds Department.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standart, second by Ms. Walowitz. Dan? We had an opening due to a retirement. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Tom Nadler?
Yep, he put in 27 years of service here with us. Really experienced, great guy. Miss him. I already miss him a lot. So this left an opening for our department, and we did some interviews. Interviewed 6 candidates for this position. This guy, Jacob, a young man, impressed me with his enthusiasm for the work, and he really is. Looks forward to doing this kind of. This is like his lifelong dream for a young man to say it's my lifelong dream. Well, okay, it's not that long, but he's super excited about it and energetic, and can't wait to get him in here and get him broke in.
Yeah, so Tom Nadler recently retired, longtime employee, almost 3 decades, so we want to thank Tom for his many years of service, and as Dan said, was a very good employee over that time, and definitely will be missed for his work ethic and experience and general acumen as far as completing the tasks that he was responsible for on a daily basis. Dan and his team did the initial interviews. He recommended Mr. Palmatier. I did interview Mr. Palmatier as well. He does have some very good attributes and skills that he brings to the position. I think he's got a lot to learn, but certainly, as Dan mentioned, very eager to do so. So we look forward to bringing him on board and getting him ready in February.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for Dan? Okay.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 16 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the purchase of replacement parts for golf course lawn mowing equipment.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Ms. Walowitz. Dan?
Yeah, over at the golf course, anybody who plays golf familiar, there's different levels of grass. This
I seem to always been in the tall stuff.
The tall
Is that-
stuff,
is that
yeah.
the stuff? Can we
Me
cut
too.
that down a little further
Yeah,
and
yeah.
make it a
Sure,
little
make it a
easier?
little easier for everybody. So this one particular machine, they mow the tees and the approaches or the collars around the greens. It's like an intermediate level. The machine itself is in pretty good condition as far as drive line, engine, things like that. The frame, the tires are good. But the actual cutting units that mow the grass at the right height are in bad shape. So instead of replacing the entire machine, which is about $35,000, we investigated and found you can buy these reel assemblies, which brings it up to a modern 2020 type of style of head too, because they do make changes in mowing reels, believe it or not. And so it's a lot more cost-effective way to bring this machine up and keep after the golf course nicely.
Very good. Talk to him about that high grass too.
Yeah, okay, I'll see if I can get that down a little bit.
Can we just make the whole fairways and everything just like the green?
Yeah, why not?
All right, good. That would make it a little easier. All right. Any questions for Dan? Okay.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 17 of 2020, a resolution accepting the bid for town building equipment, town building cleaning and maintenance, and to authorize the town to enter into an agreement with WJS Altman Cleaning Floors for said services.
So moved. Second?
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Ms. Wallowit. We had several bidders. This was the low bid, WJS, I'm sorry. WJS Cleaning was the low bid. It's a comparable price to what we pay now, which is good. The bids were all over the place. There were some that were as much as twice, right? What they bid, but there were also some that were much closer to the low bid as well. So we have not engaged this company in the past, so they will be new to us. So far, all of the due diligence that the town has conducted, as well as the pertinent information that we asked for from all contractors has been received at this point, right?
Yes.
Yes, so we've received all the paperwork necessary, and they're going to start February 1st, right?
Correct,
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Any questions for Dan or Tom?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Malaloy?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 18 of 2020, a resolution awarding a contract for landscape work for the Stony Creek 2 Park District. So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Whalen. Anything here, Dan?
Yeah, it's
Low bid?
Yeah, low bid, just across the street, Parkland Estates, they mow that large field there, take care of all the entrances and medians there, trim the trees, do some mulching and things like that. The Park District wanted to go back out for some new quotes this year, and this was the low price, and they check out pretty good.
Good. Okay. Any questions for Dan? Teresa?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Malaloy?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 19 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the purchase of a 7-ton equipment trailer for the Department of Buildings and Grounds.
So moved. Second?
Moved by Ms. Wallowit, second by Mrs. Standard. Dan?
Yeah, this trailer, as it reads in the resolution, is going to replace the trailer that's a 1985. So we've got our use out of that thing. We had quite a bit of troubles with it last year, kept having to bring it over the highway and make repairs to it. It seemed like every time we'd take a piece of equipment out on it, something broke on it. So it's time to finally replace this old trailer. We'll use it to take our mini excavator, Bobcat, skid steer around, maybe our New Holland tractor to go to some of our remote parks spread throughout the town. So you have to have a heavy trailer to put some of our stuff on. You can't do a little landscaping trailer. So
Yeah, I was only in high school when that trailer was new.
yeah, geez, how about that?
Wow. That's all we got out of it?
That's it.
Oh, boy. Wasn't that long ago, you know?
No, I won't say anything about
All right,
that.
that's enough for the peanut gallery.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Malaloy?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 20 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the purchase of a dump trailer for the Department of Buildings and Grounds. So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Whalen. This is an interesting, when I was talking to Dan about this piece of equipment and why he needed it, and what it would do for us, and how it would improve efficiencies and eventually pay for itself, which is the same questions I ask with any equipment request. There's some pictures in here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this, Dan?
Yeah, it's a pretty good sized trailer. It's a high size. It's got a large capacity. Basically it's a dump truck that you can attach to the back of any one of our pickup trucks.
Yeah.
So we only have a couple of dump trucks, and this is actually probably even bigger capacity than most of our smaller dump trucks. Take it into a place, you have a storm go through, you have a lot of stuff down, you bring this thing right in, you can mound it up with all kinds of debris and leaves and for spring cleanup, fall cleanup. Take it down to the transfer station and everything dumps right out of it. You don't have to unload it twice, so it saves a lot of manpower. It's definitely very versatile, so you can attach it to any truck that we have. So you don't have to tie up somebody's using the truck. We can use this pickup truck. We can actually.
Yeah, I like that part about it. You don't have to have a whole separate dump truck vehicle.
Correct.
And it certainly holds more than a pickup.
Yep.
So you can have debris or whatever you need to cart around in the pickup, but also in this rather large trailer. And they call it a dump trailer because hydraulically it'll lift and acts like a dump truck.
Yeah, this has got a scissor lift type of lift on it instead of a single ram piston to lift it up, so it's actually stronger, can hold more of a weight, dump more of a weight. Now we can even put some of our other equipment in it too. If we have a dingo, we have attachments. You can load this right in the back of that with a couple of the attachments. Get to a park for a project. Everything you have is already in that trailer, ready to go.
Yeah,
So
and it's
multiple
lower to the
vehicles.
ground too, which is helpful.
Yep.
Yeah, so I really like this. Really like this piece of equipment.
And it's called a Big Tex, so how can you go wrong with that?
Yeah, right. It's got a cool name, right? Any questions for Dan on that one?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Stander?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walleman?
Yes.
Supervisor Barry?
Yes.
Resolution number 21 of 2020, resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with Northeast Organic Farming Association of Connecticut for a 30-hour NOFA accreditation course in organic land care. So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Whalen. At last week's meeting, there were some members of the Green Committee that were here and answering questions about the grant and the classes who might benefit, would be open to commercial as well as residential, commercial folks, lawn care folks, as well as residential homeowners. So we were able to get a number of questions answered last week that was helpful. Is there anything new, Mrs. Standard, from last week that might be helpful, or?
The only thing is, we will continue. We will start now reaching out once this is approved. We will start reaching out to folks throughout the region who would benefit from such a program, which was our goal from the beginning. We've been researching healthy lawns for a couple of years now. Dan has been part of our meetings and has implemented some of those changes to the town. Use of harmful chemicals, which we have moved away from when possible. So now we are ready to go with this to help other landscapers and businesses and landowners in the area to move forward and just be educated on, and homeowners as well, on how to move forward with healthy lawns.
Yeah, and this isn't, I mean, if there were, how do you think the sign-ups will go? I mean, should we open it up to anybody that might be interested, whether they are a commercial or governmental entity within the town and county only, or it would seem that we could open it up to a larger group, as far as I'm concerned, as long as it's being offered, why not, have as many entities in the region as possible benefit.
We do have a large room booked in the library.
Right.
And they've been very gracious to lend us this room at no cost. So we will have a sizable venue
Yeah.
to allow anyone to come. Right now, we do not have a limit on who can attend. So we'll keep close tabs on the registrations. Registrations will be available on our website soon.
Good. Yeah, because I'd like to socialize this with the Board of Supervisors in the county. I think there might be some interest in, from our fellow municipalities in the county as well as the county government itself. I think that would be another alternative as far as getting folks to come and benefit from the lessons.
More the better.
Yeah.
There's certainly a lot of issues throughout the county as far as the runoff for water is concerned, and how these chemicals used on lawns do get into our waterways. So I think that there's a lot of municipalities in the county that could benefit from having this educational piece.
Right. Well, that'll be part of our outreach effort. So I'll get it to the Board of Supervisors and the county, and I'm sure we'll get some interest there. questions for myself or Amy on that project?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walowicz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 22 of 2020, resolution authorizing the implementation of funding in the first instance, $100,000 of the federal aid and state Marchicelli program aid eligible costs of a transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Ms. Walwick. So, this is the Siddeley Corridor project, and we've been talking about this project for going on 3 years, John?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we're very excited to learn a few years ago that working with the town of Half Moon, we were able to acquire grant funding for this very important project, which will widen the intersection at Siddeley and Wooden Road. They will install a couple of new traffic lights, one at Siddeley and Wooden, the other at Siddeley and the crossings. Those will be what they call smart traffic lights that interact with each other. I'm not going to say talk to each other. I mean, it's going a little too far. I'll say interact. They interact with each other. And also a new sidewalk that will begin where the sidewalk ends at the corner of Siddeley and the crossings where NYOH is located, and it'll move down Siddeley into the town of Half Moon. So from the standpoint of increasing efficient traffic flow, pedestrian improvements, as well as some aesthetic improvements, it's an exciting project, and I'm pleased that we're finally getting to the point where we'll be putting the project out to bid and then construction later this year. John, if you could just review for us again the anything I didn't describe that I should have, and also talk about the funding aspect of the project.
Yes, in addition to the adaptive signals, there will be dedicated right turning lanes, one from Wooden Road to turn onto Siddeley Road, and then there'll be a dedicated right turning lane that begins from the intersection of Wooden and Siddeley Road, leading into the intersection of Crossings Boulevard and Siddeley Road. What that dedicated right turn lane does is it allows the traffic to double stack. You can have double the amount of vehicles and what the existing configuration allows for. Likewise, vehicles looking to make the right aren't stacked behind somebody going through or straight through the intersection, so it allows for that continuous right turn movement, so we don't have congestion running from one intersection to the next. This grant started out with the adaptive signal technology that was available through a CDTC grant. However, it did not fund the left turn lanes that went with that funded signal. The initial award was for $115,000. The towns pursued other funding opportunities, and New York State was successful in obtaining $1.946 million, in which the state would actually pick up the 20% match for the 80% federal money. Since we've gone through right-of-way acquisition and detailed design and construction estimates for now, when we're ready to go out to bid, the total project cost is at $2.183 million. So there's a funding gap of $236,000 that this resolution would basically authorize the town to cover. To allow us to go out to bid, we have to demonstrate to both New York State and federal highways that we're committed to covering any potential cost overruns. Now, once we go out to bid, the bids come in lower, that's fine. It may come in lower than the 1.9 million, that would be excellent.
Now that number's for both towns?
That's for both towns, so
Right.
we'd be splitting that
Yeah,
50/50.
yeah, so I think it's important, I mean, this is money that we're allocating to show that we can cover the additional cost, if there is an additional cost, as you described.
Correct.
But that's for both towns.
That's for
Because
both towns.
we've been quarterbacking this project, right?
Correct. The state allows one awardee, so the town of Clifton Park was named as the awardee. However, it is a joint project, and we're under a memorandum of understanding with the town of Half Moon to split costs.
Right, so the 253 would be split, and we also have traffic funds in an account that have been a part of approvals in the corridor as well, right?
Correct. When NYOH went in, there was a traffic mitigation fee collected during the site plan review process, and also when the storage facility was constructed at the corner of Sitterly and Clifton Park Center Road, there was also a traffic mitigation fee that was collected as part of that site plan approval. When Ellis Hospital was constructed, they gave us additional right-of-way and actually constructed a sidewalk, so we got a physical improvement there. This sidewalk is going to Crossings Boulevard because the existing bridge over I-87 is substandard to accommodate a continuous sidewalk. So until that bridge is ready to be replaced, we can't make that full connection.
Right.
Structurally, that bridge is about 15 years out before it's on DOT's radar. But with
Is it that far?
it's about, yeah.
I thought it was closer than that. But certainly when it is replaced, there'll be some pedestrian improvements there, and then, like you said, we can make that final connection.
It'll be about 5 years before DOT looks at it, 15 years before it's actually replaced. So that's probably, but we have the pieces in place with the sidewalks that were put in as part of Ellis's project on the west side, and now with this project to Crossings Boulevard,
So we're ready.
we'll have that continuous section.
Now, the funds related to the traffic mitigation that you mentioned,
Yes,
those were voluntary.
they were voluntary
Yeah.
traffic contributions.
Right. As opposed to fees.
Correct.
Okay, very good. All right, I think that covers everything. Are there any questions for John? I think we covered everything. Widening of the intersections in that area, the interactive lights, pedestrian improvements, funding. Yeah, I think that about covers it. Good.
Next step would be us going out to bid and hopefully looking at a bid opening on or about February 19th, which then in March, we're looking at potential resolution to allow for construction authorization with a contractor to begin the work.
Good. Good. Looking forward to it. As with any construction project, it'll be a pain in the neck when it's going on, but once it's done, it'll be good for many years. All right. With that, we're all set, Teresa.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sanders?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Garrett?
Yes. Is that it? Oh, no. we got one.
Resolution number 23 of 2020, a resolution authorizing personnel from the building department to attend the annual conferences necessary to complete New York State requirements for code enforcement officers in 2020.
So we get Mr. Myers' resolution. Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Whalen. So we have a new employee that's going to be attending the training as well, right?
Yeah, not this training, he
Oh,
goes to, he's gonna go to 120 hours of initial code enforcement training. He goes to he's gonna go through May or June, 1 week a month.
oh,
You
okay.
know, and that's actually free from the state.
Hey, how about that?
How about that, right?
How'd that happen?
You know, It's
Did
the
they
only,
make a
it's the
mistake?
only training for them that's free.
Glenn, don't write anybody. Pretend you didn't hear that. There might have been a mistake. Well, that's good. So who's going? Everybody else.
Everybody else for me.
What do you teach the guy that knows everything, right?
I wish.
And where is the train?
One conference is in Lake Placid, the other one's in Syracuse.
Yeah, very good. Well, it's beautiful there this time of year.
So they say.
All right, very good. Any questions for Steve?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Stanton?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ballwood?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes. All right. Any other business to come before the board this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to public privilege. I think we're all set there, so,
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Whalen?
Councilman Whalen? Councilwoman Stanton?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ballwood?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, thank you.